Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. 3 weeks in and we got a first firing. First firing. Falcons fire receiving coach Ike Hilliard after that awful loss. They also announced that Zach Robinson is going to go from the booth to the field after that. I'll tell you what, it certainly isn't the sign of a very put together, a non-dysfunctional organization to be firing coaches after week 3. And then I think back when you throw in the Younghoe Koo basically losing his job, essentially getting fired as the kicker. He just got picked up to the Giants. So shout out Younghoe Koo. Hopefully it works out better there for him. But when you put all of these three things together and they're happening after 3 weeks into the season, it just tells me one thing. These guys don't have any idea what they're doing. And Roscoe just said it. These guys don't have any idea. There is no function in this organization. And it's the same thing that we've been complaining about from the top down, whether it's Terry Fontenot, whether it's Arthur Blank, whether it's Rich McKay, whether how are we firing coaches 3 weeks into the season, a week after we just beat the Minnesota Vikings 22-6. And we were talking about this team as a play. How does things change in 7 days? So ridiculous. Like, it could only happen here. It could only happen with the Atlanta Falcons, that a week after such a invigorating and happy win on national television where the defense turned things around and all of the storylines are positive, and you see the national pundits talking about this team as hey, they're about to make a jump. A week later, we're firing coaches. I mean, it's just the jokes write themselves. The jokes write themselves.
Yeah, God brought Falcons fans. It was like, whoa, guys. You don't know who you are, do you? Let me bring you back down to reality. I mean, we got Panthers fans talking about adding at the trade deadline because they need to make the playoffs. Like, that's what we just did for that organization and that fan base. We've got a bunch of bums over there in Charlotte who think they're a real playoff team. I mean, when I watched that Panthers game, you know what I thought? That damn Ike Hilliard. That damn Ike Hilliard really cost us that football game, man. He really did. I mean, this is one of the most laughable, treading water, scrambling moves I've ever seen in my entire life of watching sports. The wide receivers coach, at most, in terms of what he's at fault for, at most, is just getting guys in and out of the game on game day. At most. Raheem Morris said after the game, Darnell Mooney's really struggled since returning from that shoulder. He goes, so I don't remember who asked it. Somebody in the Atlanta media asked, what's going on? Why is he, this is essentially training camp for Darnell Mooney. He missed all this time. And then Josh Kendall comes out and reports that this firing of Ike Hilliard had nothing to do with he related it to performance. So either Darnell Mooney is getting back into shape because he didn't have a training camp, or Ike Hilliard is a bad wide receivers coach. But let's also remember, this is a guy who coached 2 wide receivers to damn near 1,000-yard seasons in Drake London and Darnell Mooney a year ago. Also, Ray McLeod had his best season as a pro last year under Ike Hilliard. I just think this screams we have no idea what we're doing. And there were other comments, too, unrelated to this from Raheem Morris that really, 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 should sound the alarms for Falcons fans. And I have a question for you. Maybe we'll do it in another segment. What do you love about Raheem Morris?
Well, this is reminiscent of when the Falcons a few years ago fired Marquise Williams 3 games into the season, a year after we had one of the better special teams units, in the league. Like, I don't know if you remember that. It happened a few years ago. It was like
Arthur Smith fired him?
It was Arthur Smith or Dan Quinn, but it was like 3 weeks into the season. Things weren't looking great. And all of a sudden we're firing an assistant coach that, like you said, Ike Hilliard had success. I mean, well, at least if we're talking about performance, I mean, Drake London is coming off a season where he was 4th in receiving yards. I mean, he took a massive step to where we were talking about him being a bona fide top 10 receiver in one season under Ike Hilliard. Darnell Mooney came and would have been 1,000-yard receiver had he played in that final match. He became 8 yards short, 992 yards receiving in his first season with the organization. Ray McLeod, another good. So, and then you're talking about all of these things where it's like, oh, well, they weren't on the same page with Michael Penix. Like, that's his job. Once again, I go back to, why didn't these guys play in the preseason? Like, we're talking about things.
Every route that you take, one of those like maps where you go, if this question is correct, you go here, or if it's no, you go here. If you go here, yes, no, here, you go. It all leads back to Raheem Morris. No matter how you configure it, you say yes, this, no to that, whatever it might be. Zach Robinson sucks. Ike Hilliard. Guess who is hiring all of these people and putting them in these positions? Everything leads back to one man. Yeah, Raheem Morris.
You could cut around whatever corner you want to do.
Make excuses for one, you get the other.
Ike Hilliard's the worst coach you've ever seen. All right, well then why was he on the coaching staff? And to this Zach Robinson thing, listen, I've seen some stats out there, and I think we've all kind of noticed it, the vanilla, the predictability, but Joe Patrick of 92.9 brought up these stats from Pro Football Focus. 93% of the time the Falcons are in the shotgun, they pass. They are fourth lowest when it comes to play action. 70% of the time out of the pistol, they run. They have yet to throw, I think they've thrown one pass this season from under center. I'm sorry, guys. Like that, like I'm not the guy that's going to be up here breaking down film on Zach Robinson's play calling, right? But I can tell you when you see, when the signs tell you so blatantly, obviously, that, hey, we're in the shotgun, we're going to pass it right now, that's not a good sign. Hey, we're in the pistol? Yeah, we're probably going to run. Oh, we're under center? Yeah, we're running. We've only passed one time in 3 weeks from under center. Like, I can tell you when you're basically lining up in a formation and saying, hey, we're running, or hey, we're passing, that's not good, OC. Like, that is a damning indictment of Zach Robinson's play calling. Like, that is unacceptable at this level. And to think that just a season ago, when we were hiring Zach Robinson, he was heralded as this Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan disciple. And all of those guys have turned into boy geniuses. And they all are creative in their play calling and disguising and their runs and everything. And we've got none of that. We have literal, middle school stuff going on where it's like, hey, raise your hand. We're passing right here. We're in the shotgun. This is what we do. Under center. Hey, man, running a halfback dive. Just wanted to let you know because it's fourth down. That is not acceptable. That is not good. So you want to talk about where the problems exist. It's not Ike Hilliard, guys. It's not the wide receivers coach. There's plenty of blame to be going around. And then I think when you start doing that, like, who wants to coach under a guy like that? You're firing some guy 3 weeks into the season that's the receivers coach and making him the scapegoat for your issues? It's just a bad look. And how many times do we have these bad looks?
More often than not.
3 weeks into the season, we're just like, good teams don't do this.
Game 1 of the Zach Robinson experience last year in Atlanta against the Steelers. I don't remember what the stat was, but literally every single time out of the gun, we ran or passed, and then vice versa out of the pistol. So whatever the vice versa is, it was literally 100% of the time we were in said formation, we ran the ball, and vice versa with whether it was pistol, shotgun, under center. Game 21. We are now 21 games into Zach Robinson's career as a Falcons OC. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. At a certain point, everybody deserves grace periods in terms of learning on the job, learning on the fly. You have to consider circumstances in any walks of life. You're never going to be perfect. Very rarely. When you 21 games in is we're borderline of like, Raheem, do you want your job or not? Like, do you want, because this can't continue. I will say the movement from the press box to the field, okay. I think that has more to do with like Michael Penix Jr. than it does. I don't think this is a Zach Robinson decision. I think Michael Penix Jr. Either said it or Raheem Morris, believes it, that it's better for Michael Penix Jr. if you're on the sideline. Like, I think that's what the move is. I don't think it's for Zach Robinson to see in the eyes of the defender so now he knows what to call. Like, that's not what's going to change. In fact, it could get worse because now he's relying on guys in the box to kind of tell him what they're seeing up there, and then he's kind of, relaying that into a play call. So I think all of this stuff is just a big facade. It tells me that Raheem Morris is on shaky ground and flowery branch, it tells me that he doesn't believe his job is secure. And you're probably thinking to yourself, no, duh, Alex, duh, whoop-de-doo, Young Thug said, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it's unbelievable how gross this team has gone from, we might not only make the playoffs, we could probably upset maybe one of these top seeds, I don't know, in the wild card round, to we don't have a first round pick next year and we're going to be in the top 10 and we're going to be looking for a new head coach and a new GM in 1 week.
Yeah.
But that just means
we're
on the upturn.
Yeah. I mean,
this is week 4 upturn.
Everything can change. And I think that's the biggest thing, you know.
Yep. You got to hope for
fans. We're right to panic. I mean, we've watched this team for 7 years. It hasn't just been the Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot. It's been this way since 2017. Like, we're right to watch a 30-0 blowout and run around the room being like, burn it to hell. They suck. Arthur Blank. Hey, Rich McKay, these idiots. Perfectly, you should do that. You should be doing that based on what we've seen. But a coaching staff, a team, a locker room, when like everything is about being together in the sport of football, to be firing coaches and making swift changes after a loss like this, like it just comes off as panicking. Like there's no other way that it comes off as anything else than a front office
Ike
and a
Hilliard
coaching
does not have a big enough role on this team
to be fired,
to be winning and losing games.
To be fired. You lost 30-0 and decided to fire your receiver.
I did watch that game, and I thought, that damn Ike Hilliard, if he wasn't here, we would have won that one.
We would have won that one 42-30.
Yeah.
Like the receivers would have just been flying. Yeah. They would have had like the acceleration star from Mario Kart without Ike Hilliard. He was holding them all back. It doesn't make sense. It's a bad sign, but we should be used to bad signs for the Falcons. Once you get a little high, they're going to come punch you and beat you down, make you look like an idiot forever defending them. And that's how I feel right now. That's how we should all feel right now. A lot of interesting stuff happened, even in the baseball world. We'll get into it after the break.